All right, welcome back to the Evolution Podcast with Mac and Jenn. We're so excited to be here today, and Mac is going to kick us off with whatever we're talking about.
Yep. So today we're going to talk about kind of the difference between like happiness and joy. And there's a different context to it on how, it might be how you interpret happiness. But a lot of times people will chase this type of false happiness that is like, I have to win. If I get this car, I get this house, it'll make me happy. If we do this, I'll be happy. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to bring you happiness. And happiness is kind of a little bit of a twist, because there's like two different meanings in a sense, where somebody will be like, oh, it'll make me really happy if I have this, but then it's not real happiness, right? And so I'll refer to it more as like chasing happiness is not going to be as fulfilling as chasing joy, like true joy. And joy is something that's kind of unconditional, something that just kind of happens. Happiness is usually conditional. It's based on something needing to happen in order to feel a certain way. So that's where you can get kind of in a trap of, you know, trying to achieve something or not working out, or you start to compare yourself to someone else, and kind of that type of thinking, I guess. Does that make sense?
So it's like the saying, if someone says like, I'll be happy when.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah. So conditions placed on the happiness. And I heard this quote today, and I'm probably not quoting it accurately, but it's just there was a coach, a famous coach. He was a Hall of Fame player, Hall of Fame coach, John Wooden from UCLA. And he always said, I never focused on winning. I never talked about winning. I talked about doing your best, like going out and putting everything down, because at the end of that, no matter what happens, you can be happy, or you'll find joy. Because it's like, even if you failed, you put everything on the line. So it's more like just observing the fact and being good with it. And it's kind of like unconditional. I mean, there is some conditions to everything, but the reality is, it's like the conditions of winning don't exist. They don't need to exist, because you feel good about what you did. And as we move on, I'll talk about like how this applies to your day to day, what you're doing and finding it. But the, have you ever, I'll ask you a question. Has there ever been anything where you thought, if this happened, I'll be happy, and it was false?
The first thing that came to mind when you were talking about that was when I was in my previous marriage, and we lived in a smaller house, and it wasn't even that small, and it was actually a really great house. But I wasn't happy there. And it was, and I, but I was, I wasn't happy, but I was looking for reasons outside of me to say why I wasn't happy. And so I thought that the house was the reason why I wasn't happy. And so I said, I want, like, if we move to a bigger house, I'll be happy. Or if we move to a different house, I'll be happy. So we moved to a bigger house, and it was another great house. And it was fun for like a minute, but like I still wasn't happy. I was still the same person, just in a bigger house.
So kind of a false lift.
I thought that the bigger house would make me happy. I thought it was because in the smaller house, I felt like it was cramped, a lot of like toys everywhere and stuff. And I thought, oh, the bigger house will have more room, I'll be happier there. And we get there and the mess just got bigger.
Yeah. Same person, bigger problems.
Yeah.
Right? And that's usually what people will create when they chase this false lift type happiness. Well, I just need this. I just need this success. I need this win. So if I get this, but then they don't change internally, so the problem actually gets bigger, and it just repeats. Whereas happiness is more like true happiness, joy. The joy level of happiness is like when you internally correct stuff, you do your very best, and you are present in the moment. Because like, if you walk outside and the sun's shining just right and there's a few clouds and there's a beautiful rainbow for a minute, you're gonna have this sense of happiness, like, or joy, right? Like, it's just gonna be beautiful. Or when a kid, one of your kids accomplishes something or does something kind, or you see them reach out to someone in kindness and doing service, and it just brings this joy inside your heart that's like, it's not conditional, it just kind of happens, right?
Mhm.
And that's the beauty of it. But on the side of, I'm trying to change my life and I want more happiness or I want more joy, looking at that, and if you begin to place a condition saying, well, when I get out of this job and get that job, or when I make this money, or when I pay this off, or when I get this house, when I get this car, when I get the girl or the guy, I'll be happy. That's an absolute setup for failure, for unhappiness, for bigger problems to happen, especially relationships. And a lot of people be like, oh, I got it. Like, there's somebody that we kind of know that wants it so bad. This is not one of my clients, just to make it clear, that this person wants it so bad that they're willing to just take anything instead of really focus on, does this bring me true joy? But their condition is, I have to be married in order to have happiness. And it doesn't look good. I'll put it that way.
It reminds me of this date that I went. I went on a date with this guy, and during the date, he, I don't think he said it directly, but what he said, I mean, he said that that marriage meant happiness, and that he was looking for someone to get married to because he wanted to be happy. Like, and he literally said that. And I like kind of looked at him and I'm like, marriage doesn't mean happiness. And he was like, and what he wanted, I felt like what he wanted from me was to like immediate, like be his wife on that first date. Like, he was looking for a wife because marriage meant happiness. And it didn't really matter. I felt like it didn't matter who was sitting in front of him, like which woman. He just wanted one to be his wife because that meant it was going to make him happy. And so, like, clearly I wasn't, like, we weren't gonna be a good match or whatever. But I literally pulled out my phone on that date and I was like, marriage, like, you think marriage means happiness? And I pulled out my phone and I showed him a couple pictures on Facebook of some people that I know that are not happy in their marriages. And they posted some family pictures and where they're so disconnected. And I was like, do these people look happy to you? And he was like, no. And I was like, do these people look happy to you? He's like, no. I'm like, see, marriage doesn't mean happiness. And and yeah.
Yeah. That's it. It just, it is what it is. And a lot of times it's easier for someone to chase the story and the false lift of happiness than change their internal perspective or internal being or whatever. But true joy is an inside game, not an external game. And that's type where you can be present in any moment and find gratitude, appreciation, sometimes just by reframing it. There's plenty of times when I don't feel happy or joyful about a situation, but if I stop and let go, is one of the keys to this, let go of the conditions, you can find joy. And that's a pretty simple thing. And they're reversing the comparison game. You might look at some situation and be like, oh, I have to be here. Like, I know some people that if they don't got $1 million in the bank, they're messed up, right? And that's part of their programming, and it's not necessarily to say they can't be happy, but the reality is, like, if you flip the comparison game the other way, you can help yourself reframe something to say, like, hey, you know what, if you're going to compare yourself this way, why don't you compare yourself in the other way? Like, it could be worse. This could be a different day and age. There could be less of everything. Like, you could be riding a horse and pushing a cart, across the plains on the Oregon Trail, like whatever. But those people found happiness and joy. So why can't you, in your situation, with all the abundance that you have in comparison to them? So it's kind of a sometimes a way to reframe it. That doesn't mean I'm going to be like, oh yeah, you're right. I should just like be content with everything I have. And I should, and I'm just going to stop here. No, I'm still going to go after everything. But if I'm not in appreciation and gratitude, I know immediately that has nothing to do with the external situation and everything to do with the internal game that I'm playing. And that's what you have to focus on. But you got to let go of the game of if I get this, I will be happy.
Because um frustration in life comes when your reality doesn't match your blueprint.
Your expectations.
So, like, your blueprint is something that you grow up and get conditioned to believe certain things, like, or you think that life needs to look a certain way by a certain time. That's your blueprint is like what you think, like what you've made in your mind how life is supposed to look. Like, meaning you grow up and you think, okay, I'll be by 22, I'll be graduated from college. By 23, I'll have $100,000 job. By 24, I'll be married. By 25, I'll have a kid, right? And like you have, that's your blueprint, what you think you need to do in order to be quote unquote happy. Well, by the time, and then you turn 25 and you find yourself single, serving tables.
For more money than they'll pay you for your degree.
Right, or whatever. But it's like you're single 25, but your blueprint told you you were supposed to be married with kids by now, and that has not happened. And so that's when the frustration comes in. And so you're chasing these things thinking this is what I need in order to make me happy. And that's just not the clearly that's just not the case because that won't make you happy. Only like you can make you happy, right? But frustration comes when your reality doesn't match your blueprint. So if you find yourself frustrated, ask yourself, like, what are my expectations, right? And how is my reality not matching how I thought it was supposed to look? And and the happiness comes though when you let go of those expectations and let go of the blueprint and and start loving what is.
Yeah, there's something to remind yourself over and over. I don't know what I don't know. Right. And so you might have your psyche, your ego is going to automatically set conditions on what happiness is, whether you like it or not. You actually have to consciously, spiritually, in a sense, like your soul has to counter that in the sense of saying, yeah, we want that, but let's find some joy here. And so the conditions are that the mind automatically goes to the place that says, and in the mind, I mean the subconscious mind, this part, the physical part of you automatically goes to this place of saying, okay, this is what you got to do, this will be fun, let's do this and everything else. The fact is, you don't know what you don't know. So what's about to happen based on conditions is probably a failure, right? Like you can force it, but the way that on how you do it, how it happens, and this will often lead to people doing things that are like almost evil in some sense, as in they will take advantage of a situation because that answers the question of happiness, right? If I want success, I can sell this person this thing, and that will give me the money I want in order to do this. And then it's like, yeah, but is that the right, like, are you going to go sell ice to Eskimos just so you can get this thing you think is going to bring you happiness? And you're looking at it being like, I'd never do that. But then when it comes down to it, you're questioning, am I selling ice to this Eskimo or like what's happening here? And there's a question. It's like, well, they're going to buy from somebody anyway, so I'm just going to sell to them. And that's an ethical like deterioration. So you don't want to wind up in that place based on a condition you set. You want to make sure you're upholding, because if you break your ethics or morals, you will not find happiness. Trust me, like you will wind up in a pit that holds you there and locks you down, and then you're stuck in a lie, and now you're holding up a facade, and you will like there's just no joy in that whatsoever, but more of just like owning it, the exposure of it. Don't hold anything back. Just be willing to release it. The big piece of joy is the ability to let go, the ability to not necessarily put conditions. And the statement of, I don't know what I don't know, or I didn't know what I know now, gives you permission sometimes to let go of that thing you said you wanted so much, because now you can see different, right? You might say, okay, I want this thing. It's going to bring me joy. It's going to be so much fun and cool and everything. And it might. But then if all of a sudden you find yourself in a situation where you're like, I can get that thing, but at what cost? And at this cost, that doesn't really necessarily feel really good. And you know what? I didn't know what I know now. And looking at it now, I want to change this game a little bit. And by giving yourself permission to follow the internal, like your soul's guidance, instead of this conscious or unconscious thing that said, this is my ego and it wants this, and now I got to do it because I said I was going to do it, and everybody make me look stupid if I don't do it, blah blah blah. Just give yourself permission. It's like almost like with schooling and education. If I get the job, if I do this, I'll be making 100,000, everything else. And then you're going, well, you know what, honestly, I thought I knew, but I didn't know. And so what I know now, I'm going to completely change everything. I've done this where I took a job and I went into this job, and the conditions of the job completely changed like the day I went in. There was like someone else there making good money. I was like, I could follow this person. I'll make the money that they're making. If they can do it, I can do it. And then I come in at the same time, they bring in other people, and that guy quits, so I can't even duplicate him. And stupidly, I stayed there for 2 months and lost I don't know, $8,000 just being there, because it wasn't, just what, like, the conditions weren't right. I should have just walked in, looked at the situation, said, well, what's happening here? What's happening here? How much is this? Show me your numbers, which they probably wouldn't have shown me. But had I said that and they wouldn't show me, I'd have been like, well, if you're not going to show me how I can make money here, you can fuck off. Because I came in under these conditions that you said were there, and now they're not here, I'm out. But instead, I like tried to make it work and literally just lost money. And had I given myself permission to say, well, you know what? I didn't know what I know now. I need to adjust and shift. But I got stuck in this false moral ground of saying I gave a commitment, so I'm going to uphold the commitment. Well, that commitment was based on the conditions that they told me. I should have just honestly let it go. Just been like, but my ego was so much in the thing of like, like I told him I'd be here, so I'm going to be here. I'm going to do this thing. And it's fine, because like I still learned some good stuff. I still made a little money, but ultimately let go of the conditions. Walk away from it. And after a couple of months in, I just told him, I said, hey, look, this is not what I signed up for. That, like, I came in with this and this. This is what's happening. This is not going to work. I'm literally going to leave this job to another job and increase my income by, $5,000-6,000 a month. So see you later. And so there's a permission here of letting go that I really want to kind of hit home. Everybody I work with always gets caught up in some type of, yeah, but, right. And it's like, yeah, but you didn't know what you know now. Knowing what you know now, how would you handle this situation? For a lot of situations, and I don't want to give anybody permission to walk out on a marriage or something with this statement, but when someone has already walked out, or someone is unwilling to change in a behavior that no longer fits what needs to happen, the first thing I'll tell them is, say, if your life was whole, if you were in good standing with yourself, in other words, your finances were good, you were doing the work that was required to be a good person, to feel this happy or joy or whatever, like you're crushing it, would you choose him or would you choose her? And they're like, absolutely not. It's like, okay, then why are you trying to hold on to it? Like, let that go, work on yourself, because your life is not there right now. And maybe if you get it there, they might change too. And you can actually correct this situation. So you always work on you first. But sometimes when somebody's just like unwilling, and they, like, even if you're doing the work and everything else, I mean, it happens. The kind of let go, the look back is to like, wait a minute, with what I know now, I would never choose this. Like, not in a million years. And then they let go and immediately begin to let a little more joy in. Now, this is not permission to be like, yeah, I wouldn't choose him or I wouldn't choose her. Fuck you, I'm out. This is not permission. Okay, like, trust me, if I work with you and you're in a divorce situation, which we help people with when they're like really ready to just go, My thing is not like, I will only work with you if you're willing to change you to a higher level to see if they're willing to step in. And I guarantee you that if you're willing to do the work and follow and I'll help you as much as I can, then they like, if it's not right, trust me, they will run away. Like they will disappear out of your life like that. It just, that's how it works. If they're willing to change, when you begin to make the moves independently to correct yourself, it's on you and take responsibility. And then you watch the other person start to kind of lean in a little more, little more, a little more. It's still challenging. Okay. It is. It's not an easy thing to do, but you watch them lean in. But what you begin to see is little pockets of joy and happiness, like true, like having a moment or like peace and letting go. So just to reference that part, is anything you want to add
I
to?
don't know. I feel like in the relationship piece, like, and the happiness, finding happiness inside of a relationship sometimes is like when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And so when you're talking about that, I'm just thinking like the people that you're working with, like, how they start to shift and then then the relationship starts to shift, you know? But it's like oftentimes, like, I think that happiness, um, like you can have two people in the exact same situation, but one person will be super happy and the other person will be super miserable. And what's the difference? The difference is what they focus on.
Mm.
And so sometimes it's just changing your focus and how you see your partner changes the relationship because you show up differently when your focus changes
Yeah, the conditions.
the condition.
Yeah. So kind of simply put, happiness is conditional a lot of times. Or well, spoke a lot of times when people chase in happiness, it, like I said, it's kind of a split word. How a lot of people use it is negative, but you know, true happiness is this more joyful, letting go in the moment of just being able to observe something. I mean, have you ever been driving down the road and you've gone down this road 1,000 million times, whatever. And one day the lighting is just right, and you look out and you're like, where's that been? You know,
No.
you just see a beautiful scene, the lighting, the colors, it's just like amazing. And you're like, how did I never see this? And you're just filled with this just joy.
The other day when we were driving and there was like that random construction that made us stop for a minute. And I think you were a little like grumpy about it. And I look over and there was a geyser
Yeah.
that you'd never seen before and you've driven that road how many times?
Countless.
And I'm like, oh my God, that's so cool.
Yeah. Just like, I knew there was something there because I would see steam in the winter, but I
Oh,
never saw,
like the water,
yeah, the
it
water
coming
actually
out or something.
coming out of the ground. And
Yeah, it
yeah,
was
so
super cool. But had we not gotten stopped in the construction and slowed down our progress and time, we
well,
would have never looked over
I
and
can't
seen that.
I can't tell you how many times there's an asshole in front of me that slows me down, and then 2 seconds later there's a cop or something. It's like, okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
I'm not mad at the people. I just like to drive fast, except for the ones that do dumb stuff.
But sometimes I think when you talk about the letting go, like we hang on to things so much, like so tightly because we think it's going to make us feel a certain way. And I just think it's so crazy. And I feel like this has been a theme of like my week last week was like letting go in order to receive. Like when we let go, it's scary to let go because we hold on because of comfort, right? But when we let go, we actually receive everything that we ever wanted. Like letting go makes us feel happier most of the time, which is why then we start to receive. Right. So
Yeah,
we almost become the more you let go, the more magnetic you become, the more happier you become. And it's like, and that's pretty cool.
yeah. Even down to the simplicity of like money.
I think that like happiness is a choice, right? Because it's what you choose to focus on. Like true, like that's what happiness is. I think it's a choice what you choose to focus on. But I feel like happiness is also a high vibrational state like gratitude and joy. Like most people, I think maybe you think differently, like happiness isn't a is it a vibrational state or like
Every emotional is a, like there's billions,
like
trillions.
I put happiness up there because like I mean I feel like I'm happy more often than not. Like I feel like I live in a state of happiness. I live in a state of gratitude and it feels all this, it feels very similar to me.
Yeah.
Because it's all about focus.
You're on the, you know, it's almost like there's a zero playing field, right? And then there's a negative and a positive, and it's all happy. And you can choose to be conditional. The conditional happiness usually brings some, it's more like a negative term. But then there's the unconditional, the joy side. And that's where
Right.
you reside, is above in the gratitude, appreciation,
I'm
and the
in,
letting go.
yes, but when I was living in my quote unquote smaller house and I was unhappy during that time in my life, my happiness was based on conditions, not on, I didn't know how to choose to be happy. Like I didn't know how to consciously choose it. So I just had a bunch of conditions on it. And I was, you know, I was trying to control it rather than like let go of it. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Like I was trying to control my happiness with the conditions around me rather than let go of the conditions and control my happiness by just focusing on things that made me feel happy in the moment or focusing on gratitude. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I'm sure that even that, like, I know for a fact that I've stretched the way you viewed a few things. Like you had to remove some conditions around always looking for like positive situations, especially like if you're in the car with me, right? Like you had to reframe how you viewed my attitude on the road,
Yes.
right? As like this is fun for him, right? Like you let go of your expectation and just be like, no, just let him be him. Because at the end of the day, I don't really care. Like as soon as I get out of the car, I'm like,
And I don't even know if it's fun for you. I just choose to decide. I just decided to choose that it's fun for you.
yeah,
I'm like, it's fun for him. It's fine.
yeah, yeah, just let it go. Like it does.
Because I think what causes my unhappiness and discomfort is if I'm in the car and you're like upset with the other drivers or whatever, like what causes me to feel unhappy or discomfort in that situation is that I want to try to
Try to make me
make
happy,
you happy. I want to take care of your happiness,
which you can do.
which I can't do. And so instead I'm just like, I just decided, no, that actually, he's actually having fun. Like, let it go. And if it's not having fun, like, it's fine. Like, he'll figure it out. Like, he's
Yeah,
good.
it really doesn't need to affect me.
Right, right. But in the past, I think old Jen would have been really upset in that passenger seat trying to talk you out
Try to
of,
make me happy and
you
feel
know,
like it's your
feel
responsibility.
like it's my responsibility to take care of your
Mhm.
happiness with what the situation. And now I'm just like, no, like you're good.
Yeah, because I mean, it's not like you went into your relationship vision and been like, oh, we all really be happy if he's a fucking rage man on the road, you know, like, which I mean, I'm not, but it's I just drive aggressively. Like I just get to point A to point B very quickly, and if somebody does something that's just blatantly like that is not the proper way to do things, like I'll probably say something that's not nice, type of thing.
What's interesting is in my relationship vision, it's all about like, I mean, it's all about a couple of things, but one of the main points in there is like, I want to feel safe
Mm.
with my man.
Yeah.
But what's really funny is like if he's driving like a rage maniac,
Aggressive.
aggressive.
It's not like it's not
He's
rage.
fine. He's not even that bad. We're like over exaggerating,
Yeah.
I think, a little bit, but if he's driving crazy, you would think I wouldn't feel safe. But the thing is like because I choose to focus on what makes me feel safe inside of it, like I feel really safe. So like I could either sit there and focus, like my thoughts in my head could say, he doesn't care about me, he doesn't care about my life, you know, he's angry, like all these things I could focus on. But instead I choose to focus on like how
Like, do I feel safe?
like how conscious he is, like how like you are so, what's the word? It starts with a D, I think. You're so like you're, well, you're right, you're decisive, you're conscious, like he's really watching what's happening. And I'm actually, even though he drives a little crazy, and one reason that would make me unhappy also too in that situation is that my unhappiness would come because I would be judging the way that he's driving, because I wouldn't drive that way. But I wouldn't drive that way because I don't trust myself to drive that way, because I
Yeah.
so
And
you know,
vice versa too. Like it's not a one-way street. Like she drives the exact opposite. Like she's probably the person that I would be like, what the fuck are you doing?
he'd be cussing at me.
Yeah. So it's like, but it's okay. Like if she's driving, I'm like, I'm not worried about it. I don't think you've ever been in an accident. So even if I'm like, it's like, it should be fine.
Yeah, but so I choose to like to not judge the way you're driving, but I choose to focus on what I can appreciate about the way that you drive. I appreciate that you get us from A to B quickly. Like I appreciate that you are so focused. Focus was the word I was looking for. Focused on what's happening. Like you are there, you're conscious, like you're watching things. Like I literally, even though I wouldn't drive the way you drive, I also feel like when I'm in the passenger seat, I have nothing to worry about. And even if something were to happen, also feel like you can handle it. Like if we were to get stranded or something, or like whatever, like I also am not worried about that, because I trust whatever happens, like you're gonna take care of us. Even if we end up sleeping in the car for the night, like you'll put a blanket on me. Like I know you will. So so like it's fine. But I'm just, my happiness comes from my ability to choose to focus on what makes me feel happy in the moment and what I want. I want to feel safe, and I do.
Yeah, that's the main thing. It's just like you went for the feeling that brought you the feeling that you wanted. And so then it gives you the opportunity to ask the question of like, this is crazy. Am I safe here? And then from that place, you begin to observe that like he is paying attention to more stuff than I even knew was possible. Right. Like,
Mhm.
cause like, and then, and as, as time went on, you started to see that like, you know, I can tell you it like probably the description of the person driving the car, the type of car, what not only that, but I can tell you the the like performance of the car, right? Like how the car is going to handle, what's this, the typical driver that drives the car, just by the way the car moves down the road, I can probably describe the personality of the person driving the car. Like people will be doing something, I'll be like, they're on their phone, or they're doing this, or they're doing that. Like, and I'm observing, possibly 3 lanes of traffic while this is happening. And you begin to realize that like I didn't even think it was possible to do that stuff. So do I feel safe? Yeah, safer than anything else. Not only that, even if someone else threw something at us, I'm already prepared for it. And most people have no idea. When traffic begins to move different ways, it's I'll back up. I'm like, something's happening. So my thought is far ahead. And so that kind of helps well, he might be a little aggressive here, but that aggressiveness also gives the ability to keep me safer.
It's like aggressive, but you're not reckless.
No.
If you were a reckless man, I may have a little bit harder time feeling safe.
Yeah. It's essentially like I'm a professional driver driving with a bunch of students.
Sometimes I'm even encouraging it. I'm like, pedal to the metal. I'm like, push on it. Let's go.
So anyway, that's just kind of a reference to you might be thinking this way, but if you focus on the joy or the positive happiness or the gratitude of it, it gives you the opportunity to ask the question of like, how could this actually be benefiting me? You know, where are the benefits or whatever, and you see something that you didn't know, what you didn't know, and now you do, and you're like, I guess I could, I guess this makes more sense. You know, in a different light, this makes more sense. So the message is don't don't try to be conditional with your happiness. And if you're being conditional with your happiness, you already know it's not going to bring you what you want. Bottom line, here's the final piece of this, and then we're gonna be done with this. Doing what you know you need to do to 100% is what is going to bring you the most joy. If you say, I want to do this thing, now it doesn't mean you can't change the game if you need to, but if you give your word to something, you should keep your word. If you're giving your word to another person, you keep your word in the form of doing what you said you would do, or renegotiating a win-win. You know, saying, hey, I didn't know what I didn't know. This isn't like, I'm not going to be able to do what I said I would do because I didn't know these things, and now I know these things. Do you understand that? And they're like, well, and they can push on you, but if they're being mean, it's like, it doesn't mean you have to do it. You can kind of choose at that point. But most of the time, if you reasonably just address it with responsibility, the other person will be like, oh, I thought you knew, or, oh, that makes sense. Or, well, let's set it up like this. And you begin a negotiation that is a fair win-win negotiation. So it gives you the ability to do that. Now, on the other hand, if you're going to go after a goal, if you're going to do some work, if you're work to 100%. You know, it's just like the ball players, you know, the ones that are the best. They just work like Kobe Bryant. Like he would just practice more than anyone else, just so that he was best. So he had joy inside of him because he knew he was doing everything he needed to do to be the best. So he had massive certainty. He could, you know, you ask him something, he would just tell you. That, like, you could see it in his energy. He's just like so certain in what he did because he put in 100%. And a lot of times you'll get in a job and you'll be working or doing this thing and you're not putting in 100% and you have no joy because you're discontent with your own freaking output. And it's like, well, yeah, but it's so long. Yeah, but you can still go in and give your best at this time, and then you slow down and you're still giving your best for that time, and then you give your best to yourself and getting some rest. And you live in a way that is designed by you, not by the world, and you put that effort in. And you know, we talked about with our membership this week about doing a morning routine. And the more you put in that morning routine, or even just making sure you're doing it in the beginning, you know, forming a habit, you know, waking up and reading something good, you know, leaders are readers. So if you're reading every night, if you're doing something and you build the habit that's positive for you, there's a little bit of joy in that, you know, that says, I'm doing this, not to show off, but I'm doing this for me. I'm doing the work for me. And when you put in that 100% to just get it done, achieve it, and do it, you feel good. And then whether or not you're hitting this certain success, you know you're going to get there. So a failure is not a failure because you put in your efforts that will bring you that joy and happiness that you're looking for. And yeah, sometimes it doesn't always feel like it, but you're not feeling like it is based on your expectation and your conditions. And you reframe it and you start over. Hey, I didn't know what I didn't know, but now I know what I know. And we're going to try again and try and gather information and give myself permission to change along the way as I gather more information and more knowledge and ability and everything else. And you can appreciate that. You can have joy in that. So refocus yourself on where you need to be to get the things that you want. Put that 100% effort in. Find like a mission or a purpose. And I know a lot of people out there be like, yeah, but I don't know my purpose. Pick one. If you don't know it, get behind something that says, you know what, I can get behind this for now. And I'm just going to keep doing this until I'm shown the next thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing. And to I'm gonna give a little piece here to something like doing this work. Like and I'm not perfect either. Like I have to kind of go up and down and remind myself and get back in it. But I'm very driven to not stay the same, to not be unhappy, to look at things and be like, how do I change this? How do I move? How do I grow? You know, like Tony says, progress is happiness. And so I'm constantly looking for that. And if I have to make my current situation look worse to make myself make it more painful so that I move, I will. But there's this part of my routine where I give appreciation to people. So it's appreciation, it's gratitude internally for me. But I tell them I appreciate them. And this kind of like I kind of fell out of it for a minute and then was like, I gotta get back. Yeah, I gotta make sure I'm doing this because it changes who I am when I'm doing it. It makes me a better person. You could probably tell the difference,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Like you like day to day, you know, it starts to kind of get worse and worse and worse, and then it kind of re-engages, and it's like immediately you begin to feel the difference of this activity that I do.
Like this morning, when you didn't jump right into your morning routine, and I was like, babe, like, are you
I was like,
gonna?
yeah, totally. So,
Mm.
but this has been paying off very well, and I just want to bring in there's my one of the things that I that stuck with me since I was a kid was my Aunt Sally. When I get mad, you know, like because we always hung out at her house on Sundays, the whole family would come over, we'd play. There's a bunch of cousins, and somebody get mad, and she would always say, "Only you can make you mad." Be like, oh, no, they're making me, no, only you can make you mad. And she just would remind me. And it was the kindest bitch slap you've ever seen in your life because she's the kindest person. What, you know, her and my grandma were probably the kindest people I know outside of you. And so that was like the thing that like gets in your head and you know it's true. You know, only you can make you mad because it's just a decision on how on the conditions or the expectations. If you let go of them, you can be happy. And a lot of people will try to argue that, yeah, but he did or she did. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. Like only you can make you mad. I'm not as nice about it as you can see. But but it's the truth. And the cool thing about this is I just happened to send her appreciation this morning of like, hey, I just want to make sure you know this, that this made a dramatic difference in my life of being reminded of this statement. I gave her quotes.
You
And that,
didn't tell me
and
this.
and then I posted it on Facebook as quote Aunt Sally, like only you can make you mad, Aunt Sally. Like and so it's kind of, and she replied back to me saying, I was asking my this like one of the teachers in our church asked the question, what have you done to make a difference in someone's life? And so this question is sitting on her mind as I tell her, you know, that's not a coincidence. That's pretty cool in my opinion. Blessing for her, blessing for me.
What did she reply?
She replied that she says that answers the question of what have you done to impact someone's life.
Oh,
And so I sent it back and I said, not only have you impacted mine, but you have impacted the thousands and possibly tens of thousands of people that I teach or that listen to me or reach out. So there's a shout out to Aunt Sally for making a profound difference on tens of thousands of people, and there will be more to come based on a simple principle of personal responsibility of if you are not finding joy, you can change it.
this is like in the book study just this last week. This is what we talked about with like the ripple effect you can have on people's lives, and you don't even realize it sometimes.
Yeah, she's like, have I done anything to? It's like she's done so much, just being kind.
Because I even said this in on the study. I said, you may not be able to change the world, but you might know somebody who can.
Yeah, and she was probably the first one that really kind of introduced like energy work in different ways, like Reiki type stuff, or you know, like just some different things that I didn't even know what it was when I was a kid, but it obviously got in there because you know that's what I do. I do energy work. I do all this, all these different things. So very big effect in that sense of kind of putting it in my ear or whatever. But there's a certain, you know, like I said, it's kind of a it's a truth bitch slap when somebody says only you can make you mad when you're mad. You don't want to hear it, but you know it's true.
Mm.
So it's and done in the kindest way, you know, with a smile. So, but and so I'm gonna leave you with that. If you want happiness and joy, it's an inside game. Put in 100%, right? Don't just do the job that you're told to do. Do more than the job you're told to do, and the blessings will flow. Like that's one of those principles that I've lived by my whole life, and it's always served me. I've never been without work. I've never been without friends. I've never been without anything, because, and I'm not the best at it. Like, don't think you got to be perfect, but there's this part of me that just says, just do your best. Like,
Mm.
if you can, do better. If the job requires this, but you can do better, do it. Especially if it's not like really requiring that much more. There's if I'm gonna be there for 8 hours, work your ass off. Why not? Like, why wouldn't you? Oh, because they're not paying me enough. So what? It's for you, not for them. Like, so you feel good. Like, I would go to work and I would put in the effort and I'd get to burn and I'd get everything else and I'd accomplish a whole bunch and I'd feel amazing. Because someone praised me had no relevance, except for when I let it. Then if they didn't praise me, then it's conditional. And then all of a sudden I'm angry and resentful. But if I did it for me, the inside game pays off 100% of the time. If I'm giving to her, like, I don't need any response from her. I'm doing it for me. Like, yes, she does. Like, it works, it helps, and I'm not perfect, but it's something that says, do your best, put in the effort. If you want true joy, make it an inside game, not an outside game. Anything else? I'm
I
sure there's
think
more,
that
but
basically covered it.
we're gonna wrap it up.
That
So,
was really good.
yeah.
Shout out to Aunt Sally.
Yeah, shout out to Aunt Sally.
Yay.
So if you find Sally Davis, tell her thank you. And if you meet her in person, just bend over and she'll give you a kiss on the cheek. So, all right, we'll see you guys next week. And the members, and remember, we have a membership that you can get inside of, where you get weekly contacts to keep yourself in check, and the people that are showing up are winning, they're making changes. It's a very cool thing that's happening. You get a lot from it. If you want one-on-one coaching, reach out to us. If you want the higher level stuff, get on the list that says, hey, I want it all. I want the heavy hitting. I want to change my life. I want that transformation. There's one coming soon. So get on the list.
All
All
right.
We'll see you guys.